Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Village Board meeting for July 23rd, 2013. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Here.
CAMERER?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will then acted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion with these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from general order of business and considered appropriate point on the agenda. At this point, is there anything that anyone would like to add or remove from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to add all 8 items if that'll pass.
So there, items 3 through 8 are already on the consent agenda.
Right.
You're suggesting adding items 1 and 2 under license and ordinance, which would be the email and electric communication policy and the social media policy. Is that your request?
Correct. I would object to that. I'd like to discuss those things.
You want to discuss those? Okay.
Then they would not be on the
Good try, Vince.
And Mr. President, can we remove the bills from the consent agenda?
Sure.
Okay. Is there another conflict?
No.
Okay, just have a discussion. All right. So I would entertain, let's see, so far what we have on the consent agenda right now includes item 1 under finance and golf, item 3 through 8 under license and ordinance, and item 3 in public works.
Right.
And
We should have first a motion, then...
I'd entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda to remove the bills list from that.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Trustee Camerer, seconded by Trustee Shipman, or Martin. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Camerer. The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the bills list, and I assume we have some discussion for the minutes. I'd entertain a motion. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as
So moved.
submitted.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Carbonaro. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Abstain.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the bills list, and we'll open that up for discussion.
I'm going to vote no. I think we're spending too much money on certain items, so I just wanted to pull it off consent so I could vote no.
Okay.
Anything in particular?
A number of things I think would take too much time right now to go through the list.
All right. Is there any other discussion on the bills list? All right. There's no other discussion. I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills list.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Camerer, seconded by Trustee Martin. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
No.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Do we have a report tonight?
Mayor, very briefly, the municipal sales tax report for the month ended June 2013, calendar year-to-date revenue, $798,635.52. It represents a $20,175.09 decrease, or 2.46% from the same time period last year. The motor fuel tax allotment report for the month ended June 2013, calendar year-to-date revenue $483,965.62. It represents a $11,126.61 decrease, or 2.25% from the same time period last year. And the motor fuel tax fund currently has an unobligated balance of $2,265,842.83.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the President's report. I have a proclamation. We have a few things to take care of here. One is the National Night Out Proclamation, and then I'm going to ask, when I'm finished here, that Sergeant Jeff Pritkalis step up and he'll tell us a little bit more about the National Night Out events that are coming up. Whereas National Night Out of Town Watch, NATW, and Target are sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on Tuesday, August 6, 2013, entitled National Night Out. And whereas the 30th Annual National Night Out provides an exceptional opportunity for Bartlett, Illinois, to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the Village of Bartlett plays a vital role in assisting the Bartlett Police Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in Bartlett, Illinois, and is supporting National Night Out 2013 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of Bartlett be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and understand the impact their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Bartlett, Illinois. And whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are essential themes of the National Night Out program. Now, therefore, I, Village President Kevin Wallace, do hereby call upon all citizens of Bartlett, Illinois, to join the Village of Bartlett and the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 30th Annual National Night Out on Tuesday, August 6, 2013. Further, let it resolved that I, Village President Kevin Wallace, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 6, 2013 as National Night Out in Bartlett, Illinois. And if there's no objections from the board, I will so proclaim. Sergeant, I believe you're going to give us an update on what all is going to happen. Good. Thank you.
Village President Wallace and Village Board of Trustees, thank you very much for issuing tonight's proclamation to celebrate and recognize the Village of Bartlett's 20th year participating in National Night Out. We would also like to thank you, Village Administrator Salmons, and all the department heads and their staff for providing ongoing assistance and resources during the planning of this year's National Night Out event. It is truly remarkable how the Bartlett community embraced the original spirit of National Night Out back in 1994 by turning on their porch lights to what our award-winning National Night celebration has become today. We would like to invite all the Bartlett residents to have fun with their elected officials, police officers, and village staff at this year's free National Night Out events beginning on Friday, August 2nd with the free pool party, Twilight Skate Park Bash, and the family tailgate party at the Jim Jensen's Pavilion. Saturday, August 3rd during the block party and neighborhood lighting competition. And finally, Tuesday, August 6th with the picnic at the park at Bartlett Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant. And thank the police department, too. I know we were going to that when my children were very young, when it first started. I think there were probably 100 people in the park, and now you can't even get in there, so thank you. Next is not on your agenda, but we wanted to recognize somebody that has been in the village for some time. Some of you may know that Steve Bosco has accepted a position of village administrator with the Village of North Aurora. Boo. Steve has a member of, not booing North Aurora, just the fact that he's leaving. Steve has been a member of the village administration management team for 8 years and will be greatly missed. Steve has honed his skills here in Bartlett working on big projects like our flood mitigation grant and being our point person for quiet zones. I asked him to outline the quiet zone progress in one area, and he didn't have to look at any notes. He knew it like the back of his hand, so I can tell he's been doing it for a very long time. He's also worked on video gaming, a small task like running a sound system at our meetings, like he did this evening. He brought his talents to countless duties in between. We're very proud of him and wish him the best of luck. And I'd be amiss if I didn't say that we'll also miss Eli. And a few of you know that he has a new son, Eli. So, Steve, would you please come up here? We wish you the best of luck, Steve.
Whoa, I thought he was going to speak.
Speech! It's your one chance, Steve.
Speech!
Thank you.
I thought I was going to stand up.
In addition, another item that's not on your agenda, Trustee Martin requested just a minute to talk about the accident that happened. So, Trustee Martin.
I live at Regency Oaks, and Bartlett has lost one of our little neighbor girls. Her name was Rajvi Parikh. She's 13. She was killed in on the highway coming back from Michigan. And if we could have a moment of silence for the family, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Martin, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her family. The next item on our agenda is Town Hall meeting. This is a portion of the meeting where you're welcome to come up to the podium. We ask that you state your name and your address for the record, and also try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which are the standing and committee reports. The first standing committee is the Planning and Zoning Committee, chaired by Trustee CAMERER.
Thank you, President Wallace. There is one item on the Planning and Zoning Committee this evening, and that is the request for special use permits to allow for a banquet hall and live entertainment in the Bartlett Commons Shopping Center at 810 South Route 59, Bartlett. The petitioner, Nico Scardino, on behalf of Bartlett Commons, LLC, is proposing a banquet facility in the space at the north end of the shopping center. It will not have any kitchen facility, so food is to be provided by caterers. If alcohol is served, it will be by a caterer holding a Class K village liquor license. The hours of operation of the banquet facility will be from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. Live entertainment, including live bands or DJs, however, will be limited to 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and from 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. These hours for live entertainment mirror the hours for a Class K caterer's liquor license. No outside entertainment or outside banquet seating will be permitted. I would move that for the passage of Ordinance 2013-55, an ordinance granting special use permits for a banquet hall and live entertainment for live music for Labella Banquets, 810 South Route 59.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee CAMERER, seconded by Trustee Carbonaro. Is there any discussion?
Trustee Martin.
Or Trustee Martin? I couldn't
Yes,
tell the
sir.
voice there.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, TL.
If Nick is in the audience, I just wanted to ask him just once again if he would be cognizant of not only the noise that is emitted from within the hall, but also the noise that's emitted when his patrons are leaving, as that can be just as disturbing. That's it.
Okay. TL, you can't see it, but Nico's at the podium now. Could you please state your name and your address, just for the record?
Nico Scardino, 810 Route 59. I couldn't hear
Okay,
exactly what you were saying.
TL, I'll try to repeat what you had mentioned there, unless you want to repeat it. I know that the part that I caught was the fact that you wanted to make sure that there was some kind of consideration for patrons leaving at the end of an event, noise-wise.
Yes.
And what was the first one?
It was just not only the sound that's emitted inside the banquet hall, but also the noise created by your patrons when they're leaving on the outside.
I definitely will try to do the best I can to make sure and let the people know, whoever is renting the facility, that it will be stated, at least in the agreement that I will have with them, that, they need to keep the noise level down on the inside as well as the outside when they're leaving. But I have a question to you, is that how are you guys going to distinguish if the noise is coming from me or from Bannerman's? So now, if Bannerman's is going to have an event where, and I'm not labeling Bannerman's because it's in the center and, he's a tenant, but if he's going to have an event which ends up extending past the hours that I'm going to be open till, who's going to get the blame? Me or them?
Yeah. That's a good question.
I think you're at the opposite ends of the shopping center.
Yeah.
And if
Correct.
it's a general complaint that someone has, the police will investigate and go to the shopping center and hear where it's coming from and act accordingly.
I would imagine that would be detailed on any type of a police report coming in.
Well, maybe a courtesy sign by the doors, so please respect our residents nearby, and,
Yeah, no, we can do stuff like that. That's not a problem.
and, at the end of the day, it's going to be them, the police,
Sure.
talk to, not you,
Right.
unless, they've got wild parties.
Trustee Ahrens, did that answer your question?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I can be recognized.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Nico, I've given this considerable thought, and I believe you deserve the same consideration or opportunity to open up a business and see if you can make it worthwhile. Couple of suggestions. If you're going to have two separate little areas for the people to rent out, have a designated smoking area so that the noise doesn't go towards the back, because you already had some residents that came in that were already complaining about noise that you haven't even produced yet.
Of course.
So I think you should be given the opportunity and, police that yourself.
Thank you.
I think you're an intelligent person and you can run a business. Good luck.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes. Motion carries.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Camerer. Next on our agenda is Building Committee, chaired by Trustee Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Next on our agenda is the Finance and Golf Committee, chaired by Chairman Ranky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing additional at this time.
Thank you, Trustee Ranky. Next on the agenda falls under License and Ordinance Committee, under Chairman Carbonaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1, we have the email and electronic communication policy. At the committee meeting of the whole meeting on June 18th, 2013, the board discussed electronic communications and social media. The board packet included a memo from Valerie regarding electronic communications, from Brian Mraz, regarding electronic communications dated June 10th. In that memo, he advised the board the village current email policy from 2004 needed to be updated based on the changes in technology. Mr. Mraz, did you want to go any further with that?
The other issue was there was a public access counselor opinion. The public access counselor monitors Freedom of Information Act requests and in some regard the Open Meetings Act. And they rendered a binding PAC opinion that kind of altered what our premise was in our 2004 email policy. Let me just simply say this email policy is primarily directed at policy to the board and other subsidiary bodies of this board, like the Plan Commission, the ZBA, et cetera, that to make sure you, in using either email or text messages, that you're careful not to do something that could trip you up and you inadvertently violate the Open Meetings Act. The prior board looked at this in 2010 as well about the issue of having separate email addresses and decided not to. That was in part based on the law as it was interpreted in my interpretation of that law prior to 2011. And my interpretation was that your private computers, your private cell phones, and the messages you got were yours and were not subject to having to be disclosed or turned over under the Freedom of Information Act. However, if you received one, let's say from a resident, an email, and it concerned village business, the old policy said send it to the village administrator, and then it's in our system. When we receive some FOIs, they may say, give us all emails pertaining to a certain topic between this date and that date. Well, that would include emails that the trustees, I'll keep this limited to the board for now, that you may have received on your personal email account or to your personal email address. And the argument was that if you got those sort of outside of the village system, and a citizen emailed you that directly, that wouldn't be covered. Late in 2011, PAC issued an opinion that said, it was a case, City of Champaign versus Madigan, or Madigan, Lisa Madigan's office sued, and the city council there, they were getting text messages while sitting at the dais, and those were FOI by the local newspaper. The city took the position that those were their personal cell phones, and those were not subject to FOI, and the PAC disagreed and issued a binding PAC opinion, and as a result, that was binding on all municipalities in Illinois. And so that means even if it's your personal computer or your personal email address and you're receiving something, or your cell phone in a text, and it still has to pertain to village business, that it would be FOI-able.
In a word?
So in other words, if someone files a Freedom of Information Act request asking for that particular message, it would have to be disclosed and turned over to the requester asking for that record. As a consequence, it makes sense, and it would be advisable, I advised, to have separate village email addresses so that if you're keeping them separate from your personal email addresses, I'll use the example of Trustee Rankin, who is an attorney. If he's getting Village of Bartlett emails, business related, and they're mixed in with his legal emails that he's receiving from clients. And there's a Freedom of Information Act request, he would have to turn over those pertaining to village business. If it gets carried further, let's say it's subpoenaed, they could get his email records, and he's got some privileged information there, and he doesn't want to be turning those over. So it's better to keep them separate so they're not commingled together. And having a separate village email address, Aaron Rinke at vbartlett.org, keeps those separate. And it gives us greater argument in case somebody were to FOI them. Now, if they're going to V. Bartlett, they're going into the village system. And I don't care if it's you sending or receiving. Once it's in the village system, it's a public record. And we'll have it then for, if someone files a Freedom of Information Act request, we've got those and we can pull those and put them together and comply. But if it never were to go through the village system, go to Aaron Rinke at gmail.com as an example, then it's not in the system, and if we get that FOI, we have to request it of you. And that isn't to say that you have to have this, preferable. It's more protection for you as a trustee if they are separated. Could someone know your email address and send you something? Yes. And then you'd have to send it on. But if you're using it for village business, and that's the email address you're giving out, or through the village website, it's getting pushed there, then it's already in the system, and that helps us, because when we do get a Freedom of Information Act request, we have 5 business days to comply. And it could be going through thousands of email. And then we have to look at them to see if there's personal information to redact it. So if it's already there and we're not chasing them down, that makes compliance with both these very limited time laws that have very short time constraints more advisable. Now, all that being said, on July 16th, the appellate court overturned part of that PAC opinion and muddied the water a little further. That would just confuse the issue. You're going to end up going back to this point, whether the legislature amends it or not. And I would still recommend that the board pass that email policy as it's written. And keep in mind, the biggest point in that is that it is rules, if you will, so that you folks don't inadvertently violate the Open Meetings Act. It sets in sort of those rules in a system so that staff can comply with other laws like the Freedom of Information Act. And if you do not wish to have a vbartlett.org email address, you don't have to. But if we get an email, if we get a Freedom of Information Act request that asks for certain information, we may be saying, hey, if you have anything that would fall within this, send them to us, and understand that we'll be under a tight time constraint to have to do that. And then you'll have to kind of go through your system. Also keep in mind, just like currently or before we have any vbartlett.org email addresses, if it's village business and it's generated by, say, Valerie, where she's sending you something, it's in our system because she sent it. And if you replied back, your reply is in our system. And so we've already got those records. Really what you'd be looking for in this situation is emails that come outside of the village's system, communication system. I know that's fairly confusing, but
Clear as mud.
a very charismatic topic.
Yeah.
We able to discuss this? We haven't actually motioned and seconded. Are we okay with that, or
What's that? Yeah, we can, we've already, I think we've motioned, have we?
was there a motion and a second?
I don't think it's...
I'll entertain a motion to
Okay.
move.
He hasn't read the proclamation yet.
Yeah.
He's just...
So, yeah.
Then we can discuss it, because you probably have some questions.
I just have a few comments. I just don't want to get into...
Yep.
We'll make the proclamation. I move the passage of Resolution 2013-56R, a resolution approving of the Village of Bartlett policy regarding use of email, cell phone, text messaging, and electronic communications for the village president and members of the Board of Trustees and its subsidiary boards, commissions, and committees.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Carbonaro, seconded by Trustee Martin. Is there any discussion?
Just a couple quick things. First of all, you cleared it up just as well as mud. The policy itself is a little, maybe I'm being anal, but it's just written a little funny as compared to like the social media policy, which makes perfect sense to me. This one is written more like with all due respect, like a lawyer would write it, and it's a little harder to read to the average person, I think. But so that being said, let me clarify a couple of things with you, Attorney Mraz. This doesn't eliminate the possibility that someone could FOIA something and still request all the stuff that all those horrors that you outlined. In other words, if a friend of mine, doesn't even have to be a resident, a friend of mine sends me an email saying, what are you guys doing about the Emerald Ash Borer in Bartlett? And somebody else makes a FOIA request and says, I want to know everything about the Emerald Ash Borer in Bartlett. Technically, that email would be your word FOIA-able, and ergo, I should be forwarding it on to Valerie or somebody in her office to maintain as a permanent record of my communication with this person about what we're doing about the Emerald Ash Borer in Bartlett.
Yes.
So having a Trustee Ranke or Trustee Shipman or whatever at vbartlett.org doesn't eliminate that possibility. It's just potentially one other stopgap. I'm not arguing, I'm just clarifying.
Feeds
That's a
up the
good point.
process.
If that friend knows your separate Gmail address, you're right. If you've passed out to someone, maybe not a friend, that, maybe it's on the website, maybe it's known that it's Eric Shipman at vbartlett.org, then that's probably where it would come, and you wouldn't have to forward it. It would already be in the system.
I'm curious, has the PAC made any decisions on communications via Facebook?
That's part of the social media policy that will complicate it further. But yes, that...
I always ask you tricky questions.
Well, you're right. Yeah. When we start in the Facebook arena, there's an element of that where there's dialogue, and that dialogue would be covered by the social media policy, and we would have to look for, dialogue between a resident and a village official under that Facebook umbrella, if depending on how the Freedom of Information Act request was worded.
Well, then it also falls under the electronic chat room category.
Right.
And just to clarify, I think we talked about this too at the last meeting. The people in the black helicopters and pajamas aren't going to come and kick in the doors at 2 o'clock in the morning and steal your computer.
Right.
They're going to need, at the very least, probably a subpoena or more likely a warrant. And that would be assuming one of us intentionally was doing something wrong, which none of us would anyway.
Yes. Two different elements. One is the Freedom of Information Act request where they're asking you for the documents. They would need a whole lot more of a showing. They can't just FOI your computer. They would have to allege in some sort of court proceeding, complaint, petition, if you will, that I believe there's a violation of this, or there's some litigation by whomever against the village. And they would say, probably in that case, it would be criminal or civil, and we would have an opportunity, it would probably be a subpoena or it would be, if we were a party in that litigation, a notice to produce, and then we would have an opportunity as the village attorney, whoever was representing the village in that matter, assuming on a civil matter, to try and quash that subpoena. And we may have to say, Judge, we want a protective order, and the judge would actually maybe look at certain things to say, they're just on a fishing expedition, it's hogwash. Or, there are situations where, again, you have to make a little more showing than just, I think so.
Right.
But they can actually subpoena your hard drive. And there are experts who actually go and pick metadata off of your hard drive. They're forensic, technical people, experts who do that. That's pretty. That would be. There would have to be a whole lot more before any of that, and the people in the dark suits or whatever.
I'm not concerned about any of that. I wanted the explanation a little more clearly, which you've given us. I'm satisfied with that. I think what you're saying is prudent and makes sense. And you've answered my questions. So, thank you.
Is there any other discussion regarding the email policy? Trustee Ahrens, are you?
No.
No questions? Okay.
No, thank you.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. I believe you're still up, Mr. Carbonaro.
Thank you. Next item on is the social media policy. Did you want me to read any of this?
Trustee Carbonaro, could you move a little?
I'm sorry. Next item on the agenda is the social media policy. I move the passage of Resolution 2013-57R, resolution approving of the Village of Bartlett social media policy.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Carbonaro, seconded by Trustee Shipman. Is there any discussion?
My questions were answered in the part.
Yeah. If there's no further discussion regarding the social media policy, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
CAMERER?
Yes?
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Police and Health Committee under Chairman Shipman.
There is nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman Shipman. Final agenda item F under Public Works is Trustee Ahrens. Chairman Ahrens.
Thank you, President Wallace. The village has been quite concerned with the emerald ash borer and its effects on our own trees within the village. In the research that the village has done, it has been found that although the insect treatments can prolong or lessen the decline of the tree over time, they're still not effective. In the policy that we're proposing, excuse me, over the next 2, 3, 4 years, is that we will remove 3,000 trees and we will plant 3,000 trees. The upshot is under Method 1, the village will plant smaller diameter trees for free to replace the removed parkway trees. And Method 2, to encourage the homeowners for the tree planting program to modify the 50-50 program on a flat fee. So for $50, they can buy a 2 to 2.5 inch diameter tree. At this time, I would move to approve the Parkway Ash Tree as presented. Parkway Ash Tree Plan as presented, sorry.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Ahrens, seconded by Trustee Shipman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the Elgin Pelican Wheel Street sweeper purchase. So we have, Paul Kester has recommended that we buy a Elgin Pelican Wheel Street sweeper through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative Joint Purchasing Program. The cost is $179,580, and this will replace the current Pelican sweeper, which will be sold at public auction. There is a budget of $185. So once again, Public Works has come in with an underbid on this budget item. So at this point, I move the Village Board award the purchase of one Elgin Pelican Street sweeper through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative Joint Purchase Program to Standard Equipment Company of Chicago, Illinois, for the total amount of $179,580.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Camerer. Is there any discussion?
Do we know how much we can get for the old one,
Residual value.
roughly?
The trade-in value on it was so low, we're going on the auction. Trade-in value that this dealer gave us was $8,000. I do believe we can do better on the auction.
Mr. Kester, how long ago did we actually budget for that sweeper? Was it within the last year or was it a few years back?
Street sweepers, heavy equipment street sweepers are earmarked. We evaluate them every 10 years. So it was 2 years ago we looked at that. We extended the life of that. At that time, the addition of the street sweeper felt that we could move forward. So the past 2 years, we've extended it 2 additional years.
Okay.
Is there any warranty on those?
12 months.
Do we have an opening to drive it?
Is there any other discussion regarding the purchase of the street sweeper? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 3 was covered under the consent agenda, and that concludes the Public Works Committee. Thank you, President Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman Ahrens. We appreciate your coming in on video. Next item on the agenda, I believe, falls under new business. Does anyone have any new business for the good of the order? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just real briefly under
What about question and answer?
a question
Oh,
and answer.
most of the time I get to no response, so I skipped it. Do we have any questions and answers, which I would also categorize as new business potentially?
I'll yield to
Oh,
TL.
I'm sorry. You know, I just wanted to compliment Chief Williams and his staff and Public Works. Public Works always seems to be the forgotten child here. Those two parts of the village contribute so much to the Independence Day celebration that we have here in Bartlett. Being on that committee, I can tell you we're always grateful for the participation and the respect and the cooperation of the Public Works Department. Thank you, Paul. And the Police Department. Thank you, Chief Williams. Even to the point where, considering events nationwide that have happened, we had a bomb dog come and do his stuff at the Bartlett celebration. And don't think for a minute that the police presence and the concern that the village showed did not go unrecognized by the general public. Thank you so much for all that you guys do.
Yeah. I would echo that. Thank you for the great work for the 4th of July event, even though I only enjoyed 2 days of it.
I personally like to thank Steve. It's been many a times when I've called in and he got the answers and helped me out and steered me in the right direction. And I think North Aurora is gaining a nice little I'm a person with a lot of experience. And I also want to thank now that Bartletters will have a place to buy a summer home down there, huh? Thank you, Steve.
A couple brief things. First of all, I'll coattail with TL on the congratulations on the 4th of July. I noticed as well, not only our police but our public works did a phenomenal job. I wish Sergeant Preckless was still here, but perhaps Officer Lagna can pass along my compliments to him for running that event. I think he was kind of in charge of it, or was that Commander McGuigan? I'm not sure who. Whoever it was, did a bang-up job, and I think it went off largely without a hitch once again, and that says a lot about the professionalism of the officers and everybody who works at our police department. Likewise for the public works folks, I saw them out there on the day of the parade, moving stuff around in the heat and doing everything else. And sometimes, I know this from personal experience, while we see our police and our public works out there working on holidays, we don't think about it because they're doing their job, but they're not home with their families and they're not having barbecues and they're not enjoying the fireworks and a cold beverage like the rest of us are able to do on that day. So kudos and congratulations to them. I'd also, if I can, if you'll bear with me for just one more minute, also pass along my congratulations to Steve and kind of my sorrow that he's leaving. We're losing a good one, although there are many more within this village and in its staff. Steve is certainly one of our shining stars. As Greg mentioned, from the very moment that I became involved with this village, even before I even considered an elected office, Steve has been nothing but nice and resourceful and a true professional. I can wish him nothing but the very best. I'm sad to see him go. His fashion sense has gotten considerably better over the last several months, so we're really happy about that. But we do wish him well, and North Aurora is not too far away, so come back and visit us once in a while, and I do wish you well. That's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, but you failed to mention, Eric, that his shirts will be filled with spit up now, and
oh yes, and of course, the Prince of North Aurora has been born.
Yeah, I had the chance to meet young Eli this morning, and he's a strapping young lad, so we do wish him well. Absolutely.
Well, there's one particular red and white shirt that he might want to wear when he's feeding him.
Well, continuing on in that complimentary theme, I'd like to compliment the village and the Public Works for the banners that were put up for the 4th of July. Look great, and I think it was a good addition to the city. I think it's a very attractive thing that we've got going on. So, good job.
On a more serious note, would it be possible to get the agenda packets to us a couple of days earlier? Just because they get several inches thick and I like to review mine in detail.
We certainly can do that. We'll just move our schedule up a couple of days on when the information needs to be into me with adequate review time. So if you would like that on Wednesdays, would you like 1 or 2 days early?
I think 2 days would be good. Wednesdays would be perfect.
Then we will move that, and from here forward, we'll have your packets to you delivered on Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
That means I have to go in on Tuesdays now. Thanks, Eric.
You could have asked for a week.
So the first several meetings, we had no question and answer, and now I try to skip it, and you guys are jumping on here. Is there any other questions and answers that we could entertain? Very good information.
I was up in the office catching up with Valerie when I came back, and we had discussed briefly the banners on West Bartlett Road, and the idea came that maybe the non-for-profits in our community could, if they so would like, would buy 2 flags, and we could have them up for the times that we don't have events or stuff, so they'd be up for like half the year. And I would say, like, I think we did the cost, it was like $61 a flag, so we buy 2 at $125, and they would pay for them. We don't incur any of the cost, but, you know, we're proud of our non-for-profits in this community, and we should, you know, let them fly their colors a little bit. That's what I think. But, and, you know, we send out a flyer to their non-for-profits, and they say yes or no, and does that sound okay with anyone?
It's a great idea.
What do you mean by their colors? I mean...
Well, you know, the Bartlett VFW, they have their little seal, and it says Bartlett VFW Post 1212.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's the American Legion Post 1212.
Okay.
And, you know, so you know, any non-for-profit, it can't be just, you know, Ted's Liquor Store, so.
Right. Well, as long as there was something already...
The Rotary, the Lions Club.
Something that was pre-made, something that was produced. Otherwise, I think you'd have to be careful of just people, oh yeah, we're just going to throw something together to put up on it as a banner. And is that what you're saying, replace the banners?
Well, yeah, and I think...
With other banners, but with their emblem?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And only non-for-profit, so it's, you know, and then they'd be made at the same place where all the other banners were, so they're uniform.
I have no problem with that. Does anybody have any questions about that? Do you have any comments on that, Valerie?
No, I think that there'll be a lot of demands, and I think that's a good thing on our banners. The Heritage Days has suggested that they would like to, because they have a beautiful logo that they've developed, put up banners for Heritage Days. This year it's probably going to be too quick. We just got ours up, and Heritage Days is a few weeks away, but I think that's an excellent idea, and we would probably work with them to do that. How it is we put up, you know, our businesses may want to be involved. I think we'll have to put some kind of a plan together that makes some sense, that the banners do look uniform, and that isn't just a logo, that it's well done, and the artwork is there, and then try to come up with some reasonable time frame so we're not, you know, changing banners all the time. And if a couple of maybe some groups just want to put up 1 or 2 banners, then, you know, do you want that, and have mix and match? I think there's a lot of issues we should look at, but the good news is we've had a great response, and I think there's a lot of associations who are looking forward to have an opportunity to show their pride as well.
Yeah.
You know, the Chamber of Commerce had a banner program years ago on... and we may want to contact them to see how that worked and what, you know.
That's a good idea, Trustee Ahrens, because they had it for a long time, and it worked very well, and it was the businesses who would have their name on the bottom of a banner outlining an activity or a season, and that was very successful.
Okay. I would suggest that maybe we put some information down and discuss it in a couple of meetings away on committee. Yeah.
Make it a committee item.
Anything else?
That's fine.
Is that what you're going to suggest?
No, not quite.
Okay, go ahead.
I was actually going to put the village attorney on the spot because I've been put on the spot, and specifically about banners.
Okay.
Is there a public purpose doctrine issue here?
Yeah. You're fine with the not-for-profit.
Yeah.
When you start getting into the businesses, and I'm not familiar with what the Chamber did, but you have a whole different element, legal issue, First Amendment issues, and you can't be using village funds to advertise private businesses. Now, if they're putting banners on our poles, you know, you don't get to pick and choose once you open up that door.
We don't get to pick and choose.
No matter what the business is.
Or not-for-profit, for that matter.
Not-for-profit's a different issue. That's where it started.
But what I'm saying is we don't get to pick which not-for-profit at that point either.
That's right.
I would suggest we're getting way ahead of ourselves here a little.
Yeah, I agree.
think we'll discuss that at a committee meeting, probably non-for-profit organizations like Trustee Martin had suggested, and kind of
Yeah, my name is Mayor Wallace. My name is Greg Martin.
Trustee Martin, I said trustee.
I'm not Vince. I'm not Shipman. Martin with the shine.
Is there any other questions and answers? I said trustee Martin. To entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved by trustee Shipman, seconded by trustee Aaron's. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Motion carries.